this is particularly weird because, like, the pumpers, they're people who you'd expect it to be, right? It's like Elon Musk. It's guys who pop up out of nowhere who like bot followers and shit and then build an audience out of that. But then you have a lot of legitimate celebrities who presumably do not need to scam people. Like, you have Reese Witherspoon, like Future posts about NFTs, Jimmy Fallon. Do you like for someone like Reese Witherspoon, do you think they're like in on the scam, or do you think this is just a case of like celebrities just repeating things that were told to them?
Well, I would never say celebrities would do any of that, any of the latter. No, I mean, my guess is, and I would like to, I will stay generic here so as not to talk smack about any specific celebrity, God forbid. But, your agent comes to you and they're like, hey, you can make X dollars by doing almost nothing. And they go, tell me more. Because it's not, you know, the big ad campaigns, right? The Matt Damon ad or the Larry David ad or whatever, those are LeBron ad. Those are all pretty straightforward, right? Like they get paid a lot of money in dollars to convince you to take your dollars and turn them into something else, right? It's pretty straightforward. Now you have to. I don't know. I guess the truth is you don't have to do any deep thinking, and that's probably what happened. The NFTs are a little bit more interesting, only in that the rumor, with some fact backed up in certain cases, is that the celebrities are basically being given an NFT. They're not paying for the NFT themselves. I mean, maybe some of them are. Some of them are. But a lot of them, probably not. And someone is purchasing this NFT for them to, free publicity, right? Not free publicity, but publicity. And everybody makes out, right? A celebrity gets their NFT that they have spent $0 on and hopefully sells it or whatever. And it certainly didn't cost them anything. And then, the person who hired them to do that, running whatever NFT thing they're doing, they also get paid. The only downside, of course, is that the other person on the other side who's bought them is totally gotten housed, right? Totally got screwed.
Well, whatever. It certainly makes sense that, like, if you're gifted an NFT, like on both the people who are minting it and the celebrities, that certainly makes sense. Like, yeah, if you're gifted an asset, you'd want to be like, oh, everyone should buy this. Oh, women need to buy apes. If women don't have the cool hedgehog collection, they're gonna die.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it just seems like varying levels of participation. I'm inclined to believe that someone like Reese Witherspoon, who, like, I didn't hear from her for like 10 years, and then this is all she talks about now. I'm sort of inclined to think that she really believes it.
Totally possible. I'm sure that's true of a number of folks. I mean, what's interesting about this particular thing that bears striking resemblance to other Ponzi's and multi-level marketing schemes of the past is that it did start out in a more, it was more of your tech forward people initially. Initially it was used to buy drugs, but like after that point, you had a lot of kind of people in Silicon Valley, people who were sort of interested in technology. And I use technology somewhat in quotes because the technology here is not new. Right. So cryptocurrency is, the Bitcoin white paper combined. I'm sure you guys know this, but just for the general audience, combined blockchain, this 30-year-old technology from 1991, Stuart Haber and Scott W. Sternett at Bell Labs, with public key encryption, which is even older, which is 50 years old. So, older technologies, it's a distributed ledger, you're encrypting stuff, you're putting it on there. It's cool. It's interesting. It doesn't really work as a currency, which they found out pretty quick. Because it's the proof of work stuff doesn't translate into. It's so energy intensive that it doesn't really scale. So along the way, it's gained so much steam, and one has to assume that it obviously has utility for things that are illegal because it's operating outside the regular system. And it has utility as a speculative vehicle, and people who got in early in this speculation have made a bunch of money if they've cashed out. So I think that Hollywood's not immune from that. I'm sure there's a lot of people who, not a lot, but a number of people who have gotten in and made a bunch of money. And once you've made a bunch of money, you tend to believe in something a lot. So for them, I'm sure it's cool. It'll be interesting to see how long that lasts, right? Today, the market just like tanked, and crypto tanked even harder. And my whole theory, as a guy who has this undergraduate degree in economics, 20 years old, so I'm not exactly an expert, but is that this is all an easy money thing, right? The Fed has zero interest rate. There's all this money floating around, obviously during the pandemic. You know, extraordinary measures need to be taken. I would disagree a lot with how they were taken, but they were there. And there was a lot of money to people to gamble with. And there's a lot of like overlap between crypto and gambling. So, people are speculating when the Fed raises rates as doing now, that should, sort of collapse the system.
Yeah, I've seen it frequently, like the common knowledge, especially among people like ideological Bitcoin people, right, was that it's the world's greatest inflation hedge. That it's better than gold. And in the past 6 to 8 months, that's turned out to be completely false.
Yeah, their only problem with that argument was facts. It was evidence. They just started saying it because I think the other things weren't working as well. The arguments change, over time. First, it was like it'll be a currency, but then it didn't work as a currency. So now it's the future of money, which is really funny because, of course, private money, which is what cryptocurrency wants to be, right? It's not money issued by the state. Oh, so who's it issued by? Corporations, basically, effectively, right? So instead of it being public money and money being a public good, they're instead going to change it to private money. Well, private money is a thing we fucked around with in the 19th century. It was a disaster. So it's not the future of money; it's the past of money, right? Even if it were to become money.
Instead of company script, you'll be getting paid in company apes. Is that where this is going?
Exactly. I'm sorry, Tom. Your productivity on the line was pretty low. No slurp juices for you. No slurp juices at lunch.
When a cop gets kicked off the force, they slurp the juice right off the ape. They untransform the ape.
But Ben, I was like to just go back earlier to we talked about like the Super Bowl this year when it happened, and just like it did feel like that year in the Super Bowl where like the Pets.com ad and everything was like a .com company. It really felt that way, but like unlike for instance the Ponzi schemes of yore, like it does seem to be like a key strategy to getting people to buy is the endorsement of celebrities. Like this would be like if Charles Ponzi, cut a radio ad with Fatty Arbuckle or something, getting you to like buy shares in his company or whatever. But like Ben, from your perspective, and in the New York Times profile on you and the piece that you and Jacob did in Slate, you've been at the forefront of saying like, I'm a celebrity, don't take financial advice from me. But honestly, like based on just like the first 20 minutes of recording, I would take financial advice from you, Ben. So please, what stock tips do you have?
Yeah, right. Well, what I would say is, if you can't simple stuff is very important, and we get lost. We lose ourselves in these speculative bubble phases that we're in right now, or that we're coming out of, perhaps as we speak. And people get enamored of, they used to call it greed. We now call it FOMO. But people just want to make money, and I get that. Who doesn't want to make money? You should never invest in something you don't understand. Now, crypto people will use that as like, oh, you need to know more about cryptocurrency to understand it. So just take this 100-hour seminar. Watch all 350 episodes of the podcast that I've done on cryptocurrency where I explain. No, you need to try to understand that what they're telling you is not true. And it's not a currency. And it's very strange to call something that it doesn't do. And it can't work as a currency. So what is it instead? Well, as soon as you break that down that wall, then people start wondering, well, what is it? And once you understand that it's a security, that it's a stock, basically, or something, it's a joint venture for profit, right? You don't do anything for it, right? You buy some crypto and you hope to make money on it. That's the definition. It's called the Howey test, but it's the definition of a security. And we've had laws on the books for 100 years, almost, because 90 years, because 100 years ago, we had the Roaring '20s, and the crash in 1929 led to the Great Depression. It's really interesting to think about some similarities between those two. Sorry, I'm going to get real econ dorky on you, but like
spit.